Hello, legal warriors. How to talk to the police. Are you thinking about talking to the police in a criminal matter? Have you already spoken to the police and you wonder if you sort of did something wrong? Well, if you're interested in this topic, stay tuned because this is the video for you. My name is Lance Fryrear, and I'm a defense attorney in Linwood, Washington. I have a criminal defense firm that's been defending people all throughout Washington State for more than 20 years. And prior to that, I was a prosecutor for 7 years. So on my YouTube channel here, I'm putting out information for the public to help educate people in the criminal justice system. So if you're thinking about talking to the police, and that's something you think that's a good idea, number one, try to talk to a defense attorney and see what they say to see what your exposure is, things like that. And two, if you're committed to talking to the police, then there's some things you need to know. There's some rules that I suggest and how we prepare our clients if we're going to agree to a police interview, because sometimes, it is a good idea to get your side of the story out there, but you have to be careful. So what do you need to know? Well, the first thing you need to know is that for the most part, at least in my opinion, a police officer, just like any human, probably has their own preconceived idea of what they think happened or what they think your involvement might be. That's why they're asking to talk to you. Yes, there are cases where they just want to figure out what you know and they don't have a preconceived notion, but let's operate under the assumption that, hey, maybe they think you've done something wrong. That's why they want to talk to you. Well, what I tell my clients is the first rule is we have to be fair to ourselves in the interview with law enforcement. Okay, we don't want to be overly gracious or give things that aren't so to the police. We want to be polite, but we also want to be precise. So one example I can think of, and this is not a police example, but just for as a way of illustration. Let's say a friend of yours comes up to you and says, hey, it looks like you've lost some weight. And hey, actually, I haven't lost weight, I'm up 5 pounds. But to be polite, you might say, oh, thanks, yeah, I've lost a little weight. Again, why did you say that? You hadn't lost weight, but you're being polite. You're being gracious. You're not wanting to contradict that person who's a friend of yours. And that's human nature. And that's really human nature when we deal with authority. Because a police officer is an authority figure. It's almost like talking to a parent. We can sort of go into child mode. So a really big danger we need to avoid is just sort of agreeing with whatever an officer is saying or partly agreeing. If an officer says something to you, if you're accused of assaulting someone or vandalizing something, well, you didn't really like the suspect that much anyway. And if you say, yeah, I didn't like him that much, well, now you've just created a motive. And so, a better thing to say if so is, well, I didn't really think much about that person, right? You have to be careful and you have to be precise in your answer, because anything you say to that police officer, they're going to write down and they're going to interpret it how they want to interpret it, right? So it's really important that you practice being precise, answering the question asked, and really standing up for yourself, because no one else is going to do it for you. So again, it's probably not a good idea in general to talk to police officers without an attorney helping you, because we're there to sort of make sure that there are no misinterpretations, because it's nerve-wracking. If you're talking to a police officer, trust me, it's nerve-wracking. Even as the attorney, we're sort of on edge wondering, what's going to be asked next and what you're going to say, because once you say it, you don't really get to take it back, okay? So it's important that you are fair to yourself, that you do not give an inch, because then they'll take a mile, and you really, really pay attention to what you're saying. Don't just talk off the cuff. Don't keep rattling off, because again, anything you say, they're going to use against you. So that leads to a second issue, at least from my point of view, is whether or not you should consent to or even demand that the interview be recorded by law enforcement if you're talking to law enforcement. And from my 27 plus years of doing this, I think the answer to that, at least what we advise our clients, is yes, you do want it recorded. And that isn't necessarily due to any ill intent of police officers, but let's face it, have you ever listened to a sports broadcast where an announcer uses the wrong name? I just watched the Cowboys versus the Eagles last night, and you could hear announcers use the wrong team name. You could hear the announcers interpret something wrong that wasn't said by one of their co-announcers, and that's human nature. Have you ever swore that your partner, your spouse, or your friend said one thing and they say, no, I didn't say that, but that's what you heard? Well, think about this. When you're talking to an officer, whatever that officer writes down, the prosecutor's going to take as truth, as absolute fact, and a verity as for what you said. And the only way that you can protect yourself is to have that interview recorded so you can play it back. And I can think of a case that I've been involved with where the written police report said that somebody confessed to the key fact in a crime that the prosecutor charged, a crime that the prosecutor read the report, took what the officer said as truth, and charged the crime. Well, happily, that was a recorded interview. And when we got the case, we eventually listened to the interview to be thorough. And the crazy thing is that it was exactly the opposite of what the client said. The client denied things, but the officer recorded it as an admission. And based upon that evidence, the prosecutor did the right thing and dismissed the case. However, without the recording, it never would have been believed that the client said, that's not what I said. Okay, so that goes for you too. So you can see how dangerous it is, because prosecutors rely on law enforcement, as well they should, to do the investigation, to accurately write things down, and not every time is it going to be accurate, even if they're doing their best. In the worst case scenario, there's plenty of times, and we've seen nightmare stories where people have purposely misstated things that are in the investigation part of things. However, I'm just worried about even accidentally mishearing, because again, all of us can make a mistake. So from my point of view, if you're planning to talk to the police, good idea to have it recorded if it's something important. And can you record it yourself? You can, and that's a good idea, but you need to ask the officer first. Don't go just secretly recording. There's some case law that might suggest we can get away with that because it's a public conversation, but it's up for debate. And so I think it's a really good idea, if you're going to submit to an interview, ask if you can record it yourself. Not only does it give you some insurance, it also lets you be able to play that interview for an attorney if you need to talk to us later about, hey, what happened? The people that have come to my office with a recorded interview with the police that they've done on themselves, it's been very helpful for us to figure out what's really going on in the case. And I think the third thing you need to think about if you're planning to talk to the police is why. Why is it that you think it's a good idea to talk to the police? Because they're not going to absolve you typically, or forgive you, or make everything all better. We have a real need, if we're being wrongfully accused, to tell the authorities, please, I'm not bad. I'm not the one causing trouble. I didn't do this. And again, remember, they may already think you did. So why are you putting this information out? If it's just for your own emotional benefit, and we're creatures of emotion, then maybe it's not such a good idea. Now, if you have some solid information that they need to know about, that the accuser has a history of lying, that the accuser has done this to other people in the past, that you were nowhere in the area at the time, you have an alibi. If there's, I have some photos I need to show you of what really happened. Now, in those cases, maybe that's a better idea and a better reason to talk to the police. So I want you to think about, why is it that you want to talk to the police? And is it really going to help your case, or is it just going to make you feel better? And if you're not sure, then definitely need to be reaching out to a qualified defense attorney to see what they think And again, an attorney, if they agree that maybe you should talk to the police, then you're probably going to want to bring that attorney with you, or better yet, practice interviewing techniques at the attorney's office, and then have the officer come into the attorney's office where you practice so you feel comfortable, because you really don't want to be on their turf if you can avoid it. If you're on their turf, you're going to be more nervous, you're going to be more intimidated, and there's a reason why false confessions happen. Okay? So those are my best tips of what to think about and how to talk to the police. Again, it's not a decision to be taken lightly. And if it's something that you need some help with in Washington State, at least, if you've got a situation, feel free to give my office a call. Again, my name's Lance Fryrear, and I've been defending crimes for more than 20 years after prosecuting for 7. And if you found this information helpful, please like and please subscribe. We'll get more people the information they need. Just give us a call if you need help, and we'll be there for you. Thank you.